The Legal Practitioners Fidelity Fund protects people against loss as a result of theft of trust funds. It ensures that victims are fully compensated for their loss of money or property entrusted to attorneys in the course of their practices. This, as many people still struggle to understand how legal documents are written in formal and technical terms. And to tell us more about this in the least technical way possible is CEO of the Legal Practitioners Fidelity Fund, Motlatsi Molefe. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Mr. Molefe. Maybe tell us exactly what the Legal Practitioners Fidelity Fund is exactly before we get into your mandate providing for people in South Africa.
Thank you, Madam, for having me. Good morning to you and to your listeners. The Legal Practitioners Fidelity Fund is a fund set up in terms of statute, currently the Legal Practice Act, but it's been in existence for more than 50 years, and it was actually embodied in all the Attorneys Acts of the past. And in terms of Section 55 of the current Act, it continues to exist in order to be able to protect the public against theft or misappropriation of trust monies that have been held by practitioners or property that has been entrusted to practitioners.
And how does the theft of these trusts or what's located in this trust actually happen? And have you seen an increase, just given the current times, economic downturn that we're seeing, perhaps people looking for innovative ways to gain access to different assets, and in this case, that of trust? What are you seeing in terms of that trend?
Look, in essence, the biggest area that we see of misappropriation of trust funds is actually in the space of conveyance. That is where people transact over the sale of property, be it land or be it a house. And that has always been the biggest area where the whole risk lies in particular, or the biggest risk lies in particular. But I must qualify this to say that this is not a South African phenomenon. It is a worldwide phenomenon. That's an area that is the biggest risk. And in our country, it still is the biggest risk. The second area, which is actually a huge area of risk as well, relates to motor car accidents, what you refer to as third-party claims, where people are injured in a car accident, and when they claim from the road accident fund, you find that the fund pays out the money, but not all of it, if any of it ever reaches the victim. And you find that the practitioner, in fact, simply steals the money and disappears.
In that instance, then, Mr. Molefe, how does a consumer then handle this particular issue if their funds or part of their trust proceedings or whatever it may be has now been stolen and the practitioner has disappeared with the money or any other asset? How does a consumer deal with this, and how do you assist in helping them deal with that theft?
First, the point I want to make is we are a fund of last resort. Essentially, that means before a consumer can actually put in a claim with the fund, they must actually have tried to exhaust all other avenues that they have to recover either from the practitioner or from any other person in law that would be under an obligation to pay back that money before they come to the fund. That doesn't mean, however, that they cannot in fact liaise a claim against the fund, as it were. And the only way they can do that is to alert the fund through a claim or to alert the Legal Practice Council of the area in which the practitioner had his offices. The Legal Practice Council is the regulator of all practitioners, legal practitioners in the country, and they're the ones that are responsible for discipline. So you have to lay a complaint with them, and you have to liaise a claim with us. Ordinarily, people go first to the Legal Practice Council, and then the Legal Practice Council would refer them to us and would actually refer them to the claim forms that they have to fill. And once they have filled, we would ask them for information in totality so that we can be able to assess the claim. There are time periods that are set. You need to actually notify us as soon as you are aware of the theft that has taken place. And you need to give us information within a period of 6 months after you have notified us of the claim. Otherwise, you run the risk of that claim prescribing. Although I must add a caveat, we do not actually go out of our way to use timelines, except in extreme cases, to repudiate claims by people. But of essence is that they must act as quickly as possible, notify your Legal Practice Council. All provinces of this country have got an office of the Legal Practice Council. And that's more practical to actually approach them before you approach us, because then they will be able to have a record thereof, and then there will be a record of the fact that you've been referred to the Legal Practice Fidelity Fund, and then the fund can then start the process of looking into a consumer's claim.
And of course, that raises a lot of questions around the legal profession, but that's something we'll have to unpack at another time. Mr. Molefe, he's the CEO of the Legal Practitioners Fidelity Fund, speaking about legal practitioners who are stealing from the beneficiaries of different trusts or other assets.